guys, and welcome back to the podcast, back to college football. We are approaching week 5 now. We saw some good stuff in week 4. I know I'm excited for the new week of college football. I'll be attending an SEC. I know Tanner got to go to the UT-OSU game last week, so maybe we'll hear a little bit about that. I'm going to go to the A&M Arkansas game this week at Jerry World, so we're going to preview that a little bit. But we've got an exciting show for you. This is a pretty big week around the NCAA. We've got a lot going on, and a lot of relevant ranked matchups that might not have big implications in the playoffs, but will have big implications down the line for bowl games and seeding and such.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, man. Week 4 was pretty cool. Tom Herman got his first win against Mike Gundy finally, so that was cool to get to see in person. I thought they were going to come back on us there towards the end, but thankfully Sam was able to run for that first down. So that was pretty cool. But kind of some big games coming up this weekend. I kind of first want to start out talking about Texas Tech versus Oklahoma. That game will be played in Norman. Before I say what I got to say, Carson, who do you like in that game and why? And what do you like from both teams?
Well, I like Oklahoma. First of all, we have a new coach at Texas Tech. This is his first year with the program, so we don't know if all the players have even bought into this program yet or not. I like Oklahoma. I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts obviously in the Heisman conversation right now, and Oklahoma with a high-powered offense. Defense much improved from last year, which I think was the big selling point for them. Obviously last year they had some of the worst defensive stats in all of college football. And, stats are one thing, seeing how they play on the field is another, but they did give up a lot of points.
This will be, I think, their first true test defensively because they haven't played anybody with a winning record yet. Texas Tech is 2-1, but, headline, Texas Tech is good on offense. So I think this will be Oklahoma's really kind of true test to see where they kind of stand defensively. Texas Tech always has some firepower. They might not win a lot of games, but they will score a lot of points in most, if not all, their games. For me, I kind of just want to see how Matt Wells is able to get his team prepared for such a big game. When you play in the Big 12, the highlight games are against OU and UT. And, Matt Wells has an opportunity here to go into Norman, not win. I'm not expecting Texas Tech to go in and win. But, make this a game and give your players something to feel excited about for the near future.
I feel like if you can compete, that says a lot about the new program.
Yeah, going into Norman, Oklahoma is never easy, no matter what team you are. And if you can just go in there and, who knows, maybe put yourself in a position to win, you can get your players to buy in and put yourself ahead of schedule a little bit is what, the term is. Kind of like what Kansas State's new head coach has done. They're 3-0 right now, and they're ranked. They will have a hard game this weekend, though, against Oklahoma State. That'll be interesting. But we'll talk about that game here in a few minutes. But, yeah, I'm going with Oklahoma, too, Carson.
Always competitive in the Big 12. We never really know what we're going to see. And that's kind of the fun in it. I know this weekend I'm going to that Arkansas A&M game. That might not be so close. We have an SEC game there. Arkansas has not looked the best in the past few years, and A&M is – been quite the chatter around the college football world with Jimbo Fisher coming in and hopefully doing better than Kevin Sumlin has in his previous tenure. Although the Aggies, they do fall to Auburn last week, end up losing that game, which was a tough loss for them at home in Kyle Field. So
that was a must-need win, in my opinion, for them.
Absolutely must-need win for Bo Nix and the Auburn Tigers. And, to get that at Kyle Field is a big deal too, And so I'll see they're going to have a big bounce-back game against Arkansas. I think we can all see that.
A&M really has no choice but to beat Arkansas. They still have games against Alabama, and that's at home, and they still got to go to Athens and to Baton Rouge and play Georgia and LSU. So they could very easily finish 7-5 again, and that just would not be good for the program. But I do think they'll get it done.
Well, it's just not an improvement over Kevin Sumlin. You fire Kevin Sumlin for that reason and hire Jimbo Fisher. There's all this equipment, all this funding that goes towards the football program. They ought to be able to beat a team like Auburn.
Yeah, especially when they come to your house, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not negating that. And for sure, the excuses are starting to run out, in my opinion, over there in College Station. But, we'll see, how Jimbo Fisher can get his guys prepared. And, if they can win 2 out of those 3 games against Bama, LSU, and Georgia, then, they'll be in a different picture here. But if they lose those 3 games, that's already going to be 5 losses.
Yeah, they did beat LSU last year, which is big for them. But, can you consistently beat your tougher rivals in the SEC? And that's really what we're looking to see here from Jimbo Fisher. Still early in his tenure at A&M and everything, but it's about that time where he needs to get the giddy up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
On the other hand, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, talking about rivals, getting his butt whooped by Wisconsin this week. You think fire Harbaugh?
I think you're going to have to start questioning that towards the end of the season, depending on how they finish. I think they're honestly going to finish 7-5 this year. They still got to play Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State, and I think all those teams are capable of beating Michigan. But we're going to have to cross that bridge down the line. I think they're not going to fire him in the middle of the season. They'll let him finish no matter how they go, but you got to readdress the whole head coaching and offensive coordinator situation going up there in Ann Arbor.
Oh, it's just disappointing.
Another big game coming up. Typically, Virginia, we talk about them from a basketball standpoint, but right now they stand 4-0 in the country. They're a top 20 football team. They have a date with Notre Dame this weekend, and if Virginia can get a win against Notre Dame, even though I think Notre Dame isn't that good, that would just be big for Virginia, and just to see how they can use that momentum to propel themselves further on in the season. Carson, who do you like in that game?
I mean, I got to give it to Notre Dame on this one. And, I don't really love picking Notre Dame because I kind of think that they're a little bit overhyped. But you got to recognize they were undefeated last season, and they do have all these wins under the belt, coming off a tough loss to Georgia this weekend, which might keep them out of the college playoff picture this year. But
I think Notre Dame is done.
Well, I would agree. I mean, who else are they going to play that's going to prove to me that they can compete at that level? Nobody.
No.
And, I mean, UVA is doing well for themselves in football this year, but this is an anomaly. This isn't something that's consistent from UVA. And so, while I'm going to be rooting for UVA because I'd like to see Notre Dame lose this game, I do think Notre Dame comes out of it with a win.
I think Virginia's new coach is relatively new to the program. I believe this is his second or third year. And even though, like I said earlier, I feel like Notre Dame is overrated. If a team like Virginia beats a team like Notre Dame, that's a huge program win. And I think that Virginia is going to get it done. And I think they're going to end up – this is going to be one of the biggest upsets of Week 5 coming up. And I think Virginia is going to get this done. And I think they're going to start out 5-0 for the first time since God knows when.
That'd be great to see, but we'll just have to see if it happens. I think Notre Dame really needs to win this game if they want to stay even in the conversation of being in the top 25 still. And
the last game I kind of want to talk about briefly before we just dive into the Big 12 for a few minutes is the Nebraska-Ohio State game. Ohio State's going to come into Lincoln, Nebraska. Scott Frost, this is probably going to be the biggest opportunity he has since he's arrived at Nebraska to get his team a program-changing victory. If they can upset Ohio State and Lincoln, God knows how much confidence that will give the Cornhuskers up there in Lincoln. And I think this is going to be a close game for sure. Playing in Lincoln is never easy. They always sell out, and when you get a top-tier opponent coming into Lincoln, they're going to get rowdy. Carson, how do you see this one playing out?
Gosh, last week when we talked about the A&M Auburn game, I picked A&M because they were in Kyle Field, and I really want to pick Nebraska because they are in Lincoln. But Scott Frost hasn't really proved to me that I should be picking them yet. Nebraska started out the year top 25 in the country, four-win team last year. Yeah. Why? Why top 25? They proved nothing to me. If they win this game against Ohio State, then I'll start considering them. But, they've got to show me something of substance before I can start picking them over a really solid and proven program like Ohio State. Even with, Urban Meyer leaving, they're still looking just as good. So I'm going to have to stick with Ohio State.
Justin Fields, this is going to be like his first true road test. Justin Fields is the new quarterback from Ohio State, transfer from Georgia. And I like the Cornhuskers this game. I think Scott Frost has his team prepared.
Really?
And I think he has them understanding the task at hand. And I'm going to pick the Cornhuskers with the biggest upset of Week 5. And I like the Cornhuskers winning in Lincoln with a program-changing victory. And Ohio State usually always has one bad loss. And this year I think it's going to be to Nebraska. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we will. I got to be honest. That was a total curveball. I did not see that coming.
But let's talk about kind of the Big 12 now as we shift into conference play now. I believe everybody now in the Big 12 is in conference play. Texas Tech plays OU. We kind of already talked about that game. Kansas State plays Oklahoma State, and I think this is a big game for both teams. Oklahoma State, to me, is the team that potentially could finish 10-2, 9-3 worst case. And it sucks because Kansas State is 3-0, and they have potential too. One of these teams has to lose. I just think the Pokes have a little bit too much offense for the Wildcats.
Well, we always talk about how competitive Big 12 play is in comparison with other conferences around college football, and it's just a conversation Tanner and I like to have because, it really is unprecedented. Like, it's not matched anywhere else in the college football world. And a team like OSU, who doesn't have a great conference record last season, they bounce back and they're still in every single game they play. It's not like they're getting murdered out here. They're competitive. And they get overlooked a lot. Gundy is a smart coach, and he knows how to keep himself in the football game. And so there's a reason Tom Herman just got his first win against them. I like OSU a lot. I want to root for Kansas State, but I think OSU's probably got this one.
Yeah.
I believe in Gundy, and I believe in his mullet.
Yeah. All right. Another game, TCU is playing Kansas. TCU is coming off a tough loss on the Iron Skillet to SMU.
How about Shane Buechele?
Yeah, Shane Buechele looked good, and good for SMU. Maybe
we're talking about big program wins. That's one.
SMU has a chance to go undefeated now this year if you take a look at the rest of their schedule. But I do think TCU gets a bounce back win, and they do beat Kansas, and they do go on to be 3-1.
I know Les Miles is the coach at Kansas now, and that's great. Love that, but it's just not enough yet. There's still work to be done.
And the last Big 12 conference game, which is one of the more interesting, I think it's the second most interesting game in the conference behind OSU and Kansas State, is Iowa State and Baylor. Iowa State is a team that came off a tough loss to Iowa. For some reason, they always lose to Iowa. Both these schools, Baylor and Iowa State, need a win. Baylor has an opportunity to go 4-0, to start out 4-0. That would be big for them. I honestly think that Iowa State might have been a little bit overrated going into the start of the season, and I think Baylor's going to win this football game. Yeah,
there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the season about Iowa State being a potential dark horse in the Big 12, but I think that's still kind of unclear, right? Because the Big 12 is full of potential dark horses. It's just a matter of who has the right season in order to become that dark horse. So Baylor could be it. Starting out 4-0 for them, that's huge for Baylor. That's massive. And, that puts them in the conversation of, okay, they should be ranked or maybe not.
Yeah.
But either way, if they can get that, that's big for that program, and that's a big step forward for them after everything they've been through in the last 5-10 years. And so, that'd be great to see, but I'd like to see Iowa State win this football game. I just don't really like Baylor.
Well, to me, though, it's still the two favorites to play each other at the end of the season for the conference title, to me, is still Texas and OU. They have a date coming up here in about 2.5 weeks. But other teams that might be able to challenge those two teams and take one of the spots to play in the conference championship, I have Baylor on my radar, Okie State on my radar, and Iowa State is still kind of on my radar, although this week is really going to decide for me if I should keep them on that or take them off that.
I still haven't decided if I want to pay more attention to Kansas State yet, because when I watched Kansas State play Mississippi State, they looked good.
Yeah.
They looked good.
We are going to find out really both about we're going to find out a lot about both teams. Oklahoma State just came off a 6-point loss to a top 15 team in the country on the road to Texas. Kansas State is undefeated. Somebody has to lose this game, and Kansas State just earned the right to be ranked. They are 22 in the country right now, and if they were to lose, they're probably going to lose that ranking. And if OSU loses, they get further back from being ranked, and it's a tough situation.
It's kind of a prove it moment.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we gave you this, now prove it. But I like that. We'll see what kind of fight they got in them this weekend.
Oh, yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully you guys tune in to us next week. Next week is a huge week in college football with a lot of big games. Hope you guys have a great day, and please tune in next time.
Appreciate it, y'all.